on to oral language and listening comprehension, because we know that all four of those domains go hand in hand, right? We can't just have listening or speaking or reading and writing. We need to be building them all up together. So the next program I'll talk about is oral language and listening comprehension. This really can be used for any of those students who are kind of in that starting to learn to read or solidifying their reading. But I also really like to use it with students who need any kind of language support, whether that's ESL, specific language-based learning differences like dyslexia, or even just kids who are writing, but their writing lacks a lot of detail and depth. Well, let's take it back to that language piece and let's make sure that's really strong. Because as we know, they're all connected, right? So there's a lot of things in this program. But we know for certain that that oral language, there we go. We know that listening comprehension is really important. And again, going back to that research, there actually was a paper that was published in the International Journal of Speech Language Pathologists that again was a meta study of lots of different studies out there. And they showed again and again that that listening comprehension is really important all throughout the elementary grades, regardless of what age or stage we're talking about. And the great thing about oral language is even with just 5 minutes a day, you can improve that expressive and receptive language. One example of that is this sentence. I'm sure all of you guys were able to read that, and I can pretty much guarantee that very few of you can actually explain what it means. That's oftentimes what our students feel like, particularly as they're moving up and they're no longer reading Jack and Jill ran up the hill. The sentences are getting harder. So we want to make sure that they have that strength. One big way to do that is through descriptive language. As we know, to really be able to describe something, we actually need a lot of depth and breadth in order to describe something accurately and vividly. So we want to give our learners a systematic approach to describing that gives them a place to start and also gives us the opportunity to expand that world knowledge, that background knowledge, and that vocabulary development, and moving that vocabulary development into the tier 2 and 3, which will help them understand, and of course then also translate into their writing. So I really love horses, so we're going to use a horse to walk our way through a descriptive hierarchy. So again, I'm going to pretend you guys are my students. Please stay muted, but you're welcome to answer my questions as we walk through this. All right, guys, we've got a picture in front of us, and we're going to use our describing hierarchy to describe the photograph. Because as we know, whenever we want to describe something, we need to use very specific words in order to give our listeners and our readers a clear idea of what we're trying to communicate. So let's start off, let's give it a name. What is this? Yeah, it's a horse, exactly. And some scientists might even call this an equine. And we also know that it's a mammal, right? Lots of names, fantastic. Let's move on to our category. What is a horse? That's right, it's an animal. All right, well, let's be a little bit more specific. What kind of animal? Oh, it's a domesticated animal. And we also just named it as an equine and a mammal as well. This also could be an animal that we use. An animal that people have a long history with. We can put this animal into a lot of different categories. So let's move on to its function. What do we do with horses? Well, that's right. We can pet them, we can ride them, we can have them pull something. We can even, I had one student tell me that we could, if we were knights, we could ride it into battle. Yeah, that's fantastic. We can do all of these things with horses. Let's move on to its attributes, and we're going to describe what this horse looks like. So let's talk about its color. Yeah, it is brown. Is the whole thing brown? No, he's got other colors on him as well. And if I look at this photograph, I notice that his nose, his legs, his ears, his mane, and his tail are all black. We call those the points. So the points of this horse are black. And if we talk about that brown, is he all one color of brown, or is it different shades of brown? We've got some darker brown, we've got some golden brown. And when we have a brown horse with black points, we call that a bay. So this is a bay horse. All right, let's talk about its size. If this was a real horse, about how tall would he be? Yep, he would be about as tall as an adult human. His withers, his shoulders would be about the same height as an adult. And you can carry on through the shape, the feel, so scaffolding them into having that deeper knowledge and that wider vocabulary use as well. So feel, for example, they're all going to say, oh, it's soft. It is soft, but let's pretend we're stroking the horse. Maybe his coat is soft, but he looks really muscular. Those muscles are probably hard and dense. If I were to pick up his hoof and touch it, would that be hard or would that be soft? You can talk about glossy or silky. You can bring in all different kinds of words. So through all of that, I was scaffolding you guys into a lot more vocabulary and a lot more background knowledge. So you could turn this into a whole series of lessons if you really wanted to, but you kind of get the point. And then as you've described the horse, and then let's pretend we've also described a zebra, now we can start to make comparisons, and you can scaffold them into that, using those complete sentences. So let's make a comparison. Well, I know that scientists call both horses and zebras equine. So both the horse and the zebra are an equine. I know that both the horse and the zebra have manes. Great. Let's contrast them though. I know the horse is a solid color while the zebra has stripes, has a pattern of stripes. You can make similes as well. You know, he was as wild as a zebra. When we ride horses, it's like borrowing freedom. You can scaffold them into that figurative language because they have the words that they need to describe what's in front of them. So just by using that simple descriptive hierarchy, there's so many different things you can do around that oral language development.